Hey there, fellow entrepreneurs. Welcome aboard the Ethical Scaling Podcast, your go-to destination for navigating the wild world of online business with integrity and fulfillment. Jay and Ben are going to be your trusty guides, and they're thrilled to have you join us on this epic journey. In this season, we're going to have a lot of fun connecting and chatting with some of the OGs in the online business space, giving you all their stories, the breakthroughs, the playbooks for success, and some unexpected gold nuggets. So grab your favorite beverage, cozy up in your favorite spot, and get ready to dive deep into the art and science of ethical scaling.
Hello, welcome back to the Ethical Scaling Podcast. Today for Season 3, The Masters of the Game. I have an amazing guest today, and I want to start with a quote from Jenn, because I think it's going to be a great start for us. Success isn't about how much you can do. It's about how well you manage your energy, your priorities, and your boundaries. Welcome, Jenn. Welcome to the podcast. You've been part of a lot of great accomplishments around leadership, business systems, transformation. So I'm super excited to have you today here with us.
Thank you, Jay. I'm really excited to be here as well.
Nothing better than starting with an origin story. So tell us a little bit more about you, your upbringing, your leadership influence, like some of your background so that our listeners can get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah. I grew up really close in age with my brother. So I, was climbing trees and played in the dirt and doing all that stuff as a young kid. And
it's not available anymore.
Right. Yeah. I was just doing things, I was called a tomboy, I was doing all those things. And, it kind of led me into martial arts. I was not into taking dance classes and things like that. I was into martial arts. And then that led me eventually into, the dream of going into the military. I actually wanted to be an attorney in the military. And so I did 4 years of ROTC in high school. And, it's kind of aligned with, I started realizing it aligned with my need for structure, being challenged, discipline. I found myself really thriving in those kinds of environments, and, kind of was accidentally landed in corporate as well. And the corporate structure in some regard worked well for me. A lot of structure, a lot of discipline needed, organization, very challenged. I have a challenge accepted mindset whenever I face a problem or something. And it worked really well for me. And I've found myself in environments like that ever since, really thriving in them as well.
It's very interesting because most of our listeners are going to be in the online space, high ticket or not so high ticket space. And I think there is a lot that can be learned in the corporate space. I know there is an us against them kind of vibe here, like, because the corporate, they don't know what they're doing. Like, yes, there are a lot of things that are not amazing about the corporate space. I've been there for 10 years when I was an engineer, but I've learned a ton. Like, people don't understand how much business acumen you can get in place just by being in corporate and being surrounded by that type of structure that you're talking about, learning processes, departments, communication, leadership, and a lot of those things. I think a lot of your experience was already in leadership, and getting that leadership experience as well in the corporate space, I'm sure, kind of shape your path to where you're now and what you have been through. What about after that corporate experience? What was the next stage of your personal growth and journey?
Yeah, it's very interesting because when I ended up taking on the job that led me into corporate, it was just through one of those temp agencies. And so it was supposed to be 2 months. And I was just like, okay, still had my dreams of going into the military. And then I started realizing I really liked it. And I was getting older, I was entering adulthood, and I was kind of letting go of the dream of being in the military. I come from, a lot of people in my family are in the military. My brother was in the Marine Corps for a really long time. But I started realizing I was really good at what I did, and I was really into learning more about it. So I started transitioning into different roles, which actually led me into tech in corporate. And I was managing what is now the WebEx conferencing product. back whenever I was at Cisco Systems. It was something else before, but I was managing the software updates, hardware updates, doing the project management, and I had a bunch of accounts. And I started learning more about business, and I was thriving. And I just thought, I don't want to be the one doing the
Mm-hmm.
upgrades and managing all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I wanted to manage the people that were doing that. And so that led me down the path of going to college. I pride myself in being a 3-time college dropout. I eventually went back. I just had to find a really good environment that I learned in, because I'm self-motivated. I don't need to sit in classrooms to learn and
Mm-hmm.
listen to lectures. So I went back to college, got my business degree. I got my bachelor's in business, and then eventually got my master's in project management. So I got my MBA in project management. And then I just decided it was probably time for me to make a change. But it is hard to leave that corporate paycheck willingly. But I
The
switched to
safety rides.
like I could do the job in my sleep. Why would I go somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
Except for I was working sometimes 18 to 20-hour days. I was by then a single mom. I was doing all these things that just didn't align with what I wanted my life to look like. So I switched to a different position that wasn't so tech focused, and it was just project management. And I was project managing the restructuring for the company. Well, when you restructure, a lot of times that's the project manager gets laid off as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I got laid off from corporate and became an accidental entrepreneur. I was thinking, how do I take my tech skills as well as my business skills and knowledge and figure out what else is out there? That led me to the online business space, and I have just loved it. I started consulting. I had a full book of clients for a really long time, and I've learned so much from it. I love being able to manage a tech team and speak the language that they speak and understand it, but then translate it to everybody else on the team into normal speak, put the strategies in place, but also be up here in the strategic thinking and having my business hat on to set the strategies in place for our goals, but then also really geek out with a tech team for them to build everything in alignment with what we're going for. And it's been amazing. I've been in this since 2012. I've been in the online business space in various capacities.
So you've seen a lot of the stages. Everyone that has been around for long enough have been through, like, I see a lot of different stages. I've been around this space for probably like 8 or 9, maybe close to 10. So I've seen a lot of those different stages. And it's interesting that you mentioned something that I think it's worth highlighting. Most owners and most business owners, they don't have the dream of managing people. They don't want to do that at all, and normally it means that that's the thing you need to work on. Like, you're going to manage a lot of humans, like it or not. You're always going to have direct reports, people you're going to manage. And even if your managers manage other people, you still need to deal with some of those direct reports. And most owners, they have that entrepreneurial bug and more like a visionary CEO. They just want to do the visionary stuff. So this is why I believe this leadership, communication, growth inside the company can unlock the next level of growth externally and from a revenue standpoint for most companies. And there are 3 things that I know you stand for, like strategy, structure, and innovation. Those are the 3 key things you stand for. I don't want to go super deep because I think we're going to have enough time throughout our conversation today, but how do you think leadership connects with this new development of AI and innovation in every single space at the moment?
The biggest way that I see leadership really connects with the AI stuff and the innovation is there's a lot of fear around AI right now and replacing people. And
Mm-hmm.
the I love the people part. I love the people part of business and supporting people. And I feel like tackling that fear and showing how it's not here to replace people. It's here to get you doing your best work and assisting you with being more efficient, automating some things. It gets to be our friend. And if we're not scared of it, then we can sit there and really think, how do I do more with this? How do I be more efficient with this? Because it can be one of your best assistants on the team, one of your best, brainstorming partners. I use it in so many different ways in my personal life as well as in business. And I think that was the biggest part was, or continues to be, getting through to people that it's okay. Yes, we're
Mhm.
scared. There's certain positions that are more scared than others, but learning how to use it is going to be the biggest skill that you have, because a human is still needed to use it. And I told my team I think about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, AI is not going to take your job, but somebody who can use AI really well will. And I look for that when I'm hiring. I
Well,
want to see what they've done. I want to see that they're not scared of it and they've embraced it and they have some AI skills, even if it's just using Chat GPT.
mhm.
You
And I think it's important for people to understand that we were not here, but I can just imagine during the Industrial Revolution, probably people felt the same way. Like they were doing everything through human labor, and then suddenly you get access to assembly lines and new machinery and all that stuff. Probably people were scared, and I'm sure that some people lost their jobs, but there was a plethora of new jobs that were created out of that. And people still cannot see that this AI revolution can also create new jobs that we don't even know we will need in the short and long term, because people don't understand that it's not about being afraid of it. It's about embracing it. How can you embrace this AI revolution? How can you use it so that you can become more efficient, more effective, more productive? And that's what it's here for. I don't believe it's going to be a time where it can replace humans, but I think it can replace lazy humans. And I think those lazy humans are the ones that are scared at the moment.
Yeah, and just unique business models. It brings a unique business model to where other people, other companies are going to pivot or they're going to go
Mhm.
out of business. And a prime example is Blockbuster Video versus Netflix.
Mhm.
And you can read about Blockbuster and the CEO and the decisions that they made, and going
Wrong
back.
decisions.
Yeah,
Wrong decisions.
yeah. And then look what Netflix was able to do, revolutionize how we watch movies and videos. And where's where are all the video stores now? They
Mhm.
had an opportunity to pivot. And that's the part where I love looking at what's cutting edge and trying to keep up with it or be ahead of it. The market winds blow every which direction. And if you can just follow that, I feel like those will be the successful businesses, but it does require pivoting and
Mhm.
changing business models. And so I see this AI revolution in the same way I saw the internet coming out
Mhm.
back in the mid 90s when the internet was coming out and AOL and dial up and all of that stuff was happening. People were scared and people thought it was a fad and all that. It created jobs. It also made some other jobs obsolete, but people that are willing to learn new skills and businesses that are willing to learn a new way of doing business, you will thrive and be successful. That's
I
where the
agree.
future.
I agree, and you'll share with us a couple of stories of how you can start thinking about how to implement some of those projects. But I know you've been through a lot from the corporate space, then you transition into the online space as well. A lot of these different businesses doing some consulting, but it actually can be challenging at times, like being and wearing that hat of being almost a COO for some of those projects can lead to some burnout. Do you want to tell us a little bit more? I know there is an amazing quote from you that says burnout isn't a badge of honor, it's a sign something needs a shift. So I think that's a good starting point for some of the owners and business leaders that are listening to the podcast, to just start thinking like, hey guys, if you feel like burned out, that's not normal. That shouldn't be the norm. That means that there needs a shift that needs to happen.
Yeah. And that's absolutely what I learned by getting really, really sick several years ago. It's probably been about 6 years now. I had challenges walking. I had challenges speaking in complete sentences. I did a lot of work just over email and Slack and text and stuff like that, because it was hard for me to function cognitively. I was sick a lot. I had health challenges, but it was really taken to the next level by how much I was working and how little I was taking care of myself. And you're only as good as the team you have, and that gave me the realization I needed to develop the team more so that I wasn't needed so much. And I didn't feel like I was the only one that could step in certain situations. It is absolutely not a badge of honor. I don't know anybody that later on in life, they wish they worked more.
Mm-hmm.
They wish they spent more time with their family, and that comes down to systems, structures, processes, but also leadership development, the self leadership development that I went through and still go through, and with the team. But I do a lot of things. I have a sauna in my bedroom. I have an infrared sauna. I get vitamin IVs. I go to the gym 4 to 5 days a week. I really take care of myself because this is like running a marathon and not slowing down enough when you really needed to, and keeping up with businesses, especially as the CEO. As the
Mm-hmm.
CEO, there's different risks, there's financial pressure, that you have people's livelihoods really dependent on you. You have to take care of yourself probably better than anybody else on the team. And then me coming in with at companies and being the second in command, my responsibility was then to take responsibility off the CEO and so take some of that on myself, but I couldn't do it all. So, again, I had to develop the team as well as take care of myself, because you burn out, you're no good for anybody.
And I see that a lot, and I'm sure you have seen that as well. A lot of these businesses who are going through massive growth, the owners, it's very consistent that owners burn out. Like I've seen this multiple times. I'm not going to name any names, but I'm sure you know a lot of people like I do. And I see the owners are absolutely crushing it for 4, 6, maybe 8 weeks, and then they crash and burn for another 4 or 6. Then they need to come back on track, do it all over again, and repeat the same cycle. And I think they just embrace this cycle as being the normality. I don't think it needs to be that way. I think there will be times for pushing and pulling. That's
Yeah.
my approach to doing anything I do, including business. It's like, yes, there will be times that I need to work a little bit more, push a little bit more, but I will never push or grind without knowing that there's going to be a timeline, that I'm going to take a break and pull back and have some lighter weeks in order for me to recover, and also to give the process time to generate enough results for me to not be reactive to the short-term results, and see what the lag indicators are after I give it enough time. And even for me to be able to zoom out a little bit and look from a different perspective, because when you're in the island, you cannot see the island. So sometimes you just need to leave the island for a while so that you can look at the island and understand what's on that island. Do I want to go back there? Is it the right island that I want to be spending my time on? I think it's a big realization. Like I know that no one wants to go through a burnout, but I'm sure that that burnout taught you a lot by going through it. What would you say that massively changed for you and for your team after that burnout?
Um, I think the big realization I had, I did a lot of reading during that time. My business coach said, you will do absolutely nothing for a week. You will not read business books. You will not work. You will not do anything, and I just kind of worked through slowing down, doing things. I did read the book, The One Thing, which is one
Mhm.
of my favorite books. I've read it a couple times since then and gone back through my notes. And it talked about how there's no such thing as work-life balance. It's a counterbalance. Sometimes you
Counterbalance.
get more, you give less over here. Sometimes you get more playtime and you're doing less work. And it's that counterbalance. And really, always, like you said, zooming out and looking at things, that bird's eye view, but also not getting distracted. And especially with AI right now, and it's ever changing, all these new models come out and features, it's easy to get stuck on what everybody else is doing and the bright, shiny object syndrome. And it's like, what are our goals? What's our strategic plan? What are we going for? If I say yes to this, is that in alignment with what I'm going for? Or
Mhm.
is it just a bright, shiny object thing? It could fit in terms of, oh, it builds visibility, although it doesn't necessarily directly bring in revenue, So how does it fit? And so just knowing what you're saying yes to. I have a much slower paced personal life now, which I absolutely love. But I've been able to have a busier work life in terms of traveling and doing those things. I never come home sick anymore. I set my habits up for before, during, and after travel. I take care of myself at home, and I kind of have those non-negotiables now.
Mhm.
And I've encouraged my team to do the same. If somebody's taking off time because they're having a baby, I will be the first one to say, take off as much time as you can. The business will be okay. You will never get this time back with this baby in this moment. Take off as much time as you can. And I am that kind of leader that really believes that. And then I've seen my team communicate in the same way to their team members. We get, if we're lucky, 18 summers with our kids. That's it. Take off time in the summer and go on vacation.
Mhm.
Maybe only 18 spring breaks. It's just, you have to spend that time really identifying what's important in business and your career, but also in your personal life, and making sure to have that counterbalance. That leads to happiness.
And fulfillment. I think it's a misunderstood word for a lot of people. Like, I see people being successful and being happy with a couple things, but they don't feel fulfilled. And it's not like business for me. It's something that I love. Look, I love working. I love what we do. I love what we stand for. But I know that the business I have and the business I had were just vehicles. It's a means to an end, and that end is the experiences, is getting married, having my wife, building our house, creating our own family. Those are the things that are relevant to me. That's what I want to be spending my time. I do love spending time with bright people as well. That gives me a lot of joy, but I'm lucky enough to spend a lot of that time with people, and I made a lot of those mistakes in my corporate time as well. Like, I was working too many hours, more than I would recommend to anyone. And spending all that time working, I missed a lot of things, from like special events for my family, nieces, nephews, and those times won't come back. They won't come back. Like, they were 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, and I missed like birthdays and parties and events. I missed them because I was working all the time, until there was a time that it was a Sunday, it was Easter, and we went for a family lunch all together. We had lunch, and my wife told me, she wasn't my wife at that time, but she told me, let's go to the beach. We're very close to the beach. Let's go to the beach. Let's go for a walk. Let's get some sun. It's like, no, I need to go back home right now. Why? I have to do work. And that day, I could feel in her voice and looking at her eyes that something was off. And then a few days later, we had a conversation. She was like, I don't care how much money we can make in business or whatever you're doing. I want to make sure we don't lose more moments like the ones we're losing now. And that for me was like the pivotal moment. Less than a year after I left my corporate experience to another chapter of my book, and I started going all in on my own side projects I was starting at that time. And I think for me it was the realization of like, yes, I don't want to lose more moments. I don't want to just be by this status quo and just do what everyone is doing just because it feels correct. And I mean, I'm sure when you have like a past like you, a lot of discipline, a lot of leadership, high standards, it's super easy to just keep going and keep going and keep going, because you can endure a level of effort that most people want. But that can be a bad thing. People think it's an amazing thing. Oh, like Jay is so focused, he can endure so much pain and so much discomfort. Yes, but sometimes it comes at the cost of me not pausing and looking, am I rowing faster than anyone else, but I'm rowing in the wrong direction? And it happened to me multiple times. I was rowing and the boat was moving, but not to the place I wanted to be. So just those pivots you mentioned before, I think are critical. I want to make sure I can tap into your brains, because I think our audience could learn a lot from your experience on all things related with leadership, systems, and things like that. I want to make sure I give them a playbook, something they can act and take action on and see some potential growth. So I wrote 3 things that I know you're amazing at, and I think you could give our audience some really good ideas. Number 1, leadership and systems, and energy management. I know you talk about systems, delegation, and basically how to protect your energy. What would be some of your recommendations for our listeners?
For how to protect your energy, I think it comes down to really knowing yourself. I know the times of day where I have good energy, low energy. I choose to get up. My alarm goes off at 5 in the morning. I choose to get up, get ready. I don't have this big morning practice or anything. It's just not something that I need. I just have my morning routine. I get online. I can work for 2-3 solid hours before usually the rest of my team is even awake and online, and then go into some meetings. I do feel my energy dip in the afternoon. So I kind of manage what I do during that time to make sure that's not when I put my deep focus time on the calendar. It wouldn't make sense. I'm just not in that headspace. And so I kind of structure my day where it might look like a long day from 5 a.m., it might be online by like 5:30 a.m. to 5 or 6 p.m., but I'm not online working through that time. I log off at 3:30 and go to the gym, come back around 5, and then I'm checking in on things when I have my second wind, my little hit from going to the gym. So I think it really comes down to knowing yourself. I sleep really good. I sleep solid hours. I don't sleep until noon on the weekends. I keep my routine on the weekends so that I'm in that routine during the week. And now it's just habits. I really believe that we are built by our habits. We can't do anything different unless we develop different habits. So
we either build them or they build us. That's the thing that people don't realize. They still have the habits, might not be the habits they want, but they don't understand that they're just becoming what their habits are actually conditioning them to become.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there was a recent quote I saw by Alex Hermosi, and he said, it's not your 9 to 5 that's keeping you stuck. It's how you spend 5 to 9.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Do you get off work and you sit and watch TV and eat junk food in front of the TV, different things like that. And I am who I am in every area of my life. So I have to have all of those habits to make me a better wife, a better mother, a better daughter, sister, worker, whatever title I might have, at a company. I have to be who I am in all areas of my life to have those habits.
I love it. I love it. I think a lot of people can just take that and just think about it, like how to learn a little bit more about themselves, how they operate. Because people think there is a cookie cutter solution out there they can just copy and paste. Like you and I, looks like we have a very similar approach on how we manage our schedule, but it might be completely different from someone else we know. Just taking that time to understand how you perform. Like for me, like if I have to do calls, it's going to be when I'm in Lisbon in Portugal, it's going to be in the afternoon. That's when I do better for doing those types of work. But if I need to do any really deep work, I would rather wake up super early, do it in the morning, then take a break, go to the gym, and come energized after the gym to have that extra energy and that extra boost after the gym to help me go through all the calls I'll have in the afternoon, and just finding what works best for you. Like as an example, when we were writing our book, what I did was every day in the morning, it was a 90-day block, every single day, Monday to Sunday, 10 a.m. to 11:30, I would just write as much as I could inside the book. After 11:30, no more. I could have 100 ideas. I would stop immediately, we'll go to the gym, take a break, think about something else, reconnect with myself, had a really good meal, and then go back to work. And I was able to write the whole manuscript in 30 days. It was crazy fast. Why? Because I was very, very organized with my habits. It was like, I want to build this muscle, the frequency and consistency muscle. I don't care about the outcome. I know if I build this frequency and the consistency, the results will happen. And they did. And I think people normally don't realize that it's not about how much you do, but more about how frequently you do it. You will end up becoming better. You'll end up creating more outputs.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And this to me is the systems and structures in our personal life. Like I said, I am who I am. I use AI in my personal life when I'm working on my car and troubleshooting things, or, trying to plan a vacation. I do that sort of stuff. But also when it comes to just being efficient in my personal life as well, I have to be. So systems and structures are important at work, and systems and structures are important in your personal life as well.
You touched on AI. Let's go through theme number 2 here, because I think you can give people some ideas on what you've seen working and not working. How do you see the connection between the developments of AI and building an ethical business? Because I know there is a big battle between like, is this ethical to use AI? Is it not? I just think it's a smokescreen. Like anything can be ethical or not, depending on how you use it. I've seen a lot of unethical things done in the past without using AI. So I'm sure you cannot blame AI for that. But what are some ideas on things you have seen on how to use AI to create custom GPTs, or what's your vision for the connection between AI and leadership and how to lead teams? What have you seen working, and what are some of your ideas you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, I have actually been building a lot of custom GPTs. Two of them that I recently built, I was just looking at how do I get my leaders to do the things only they can do and
Mhm.
to do them better? How do I get them being more efficient, time freed up, but somebody or something still has to do all the same work? So one of them I built is trained on everything around marketing and sales for the brand that I built it for. And it can write copy, it can do ad copy, video scripts, sales pages, email copy, everything that is from a sales and marketing perspective. So it's optimized for conversions. I built a second one for the same company that is just for nurture content, lead magnets, nurturing the community, getting engagement. It can do Instagram carousel, post ideas, checklists. It can do all of that. It is strictly built to avoid anything sales and marketing, but to keep things on theme still. So we're connecting the dots all the way through the nurturing and then the marketing and selling. And using those, both of those, the team has been freed up so much in marketing. My community manager has been able, the company has about a 80,000 person public Facebook group, women entrepreneurs, been able to put up posts that seed a topic for something that's going to be marketed, but it's all just nurture content, getting engagement, positioning the brand, nothing salesy whatsoever. And it's just, I mean, honestly, I I feel really proud of what I was able to build in there, but fine tuning it as well. And that was where I really got to drive home the point with the team of, it's not going to replace anybody, but somebody that can use this really well is going to be more valuable than somebody that refuses to use it. And that's a big thing with copywriters. Oh, that's going to take
Mhm.
their job. Somebody has to push the buttons, and somebody has to know that copywriting role and the mindset to be able to even just prompt it well. Even the GPTs where you don't have to put in prompts, you have to know what to ask for.
Mhm.
You have to know what looks good from the outputs and what doesn't, and creating the training documentation for it. And it is just, it's been mind blowing what we've been able to do with those. And I just think embracing all of that, and then also coming back and being able to do ad analysis, what worked,
Mhm.
what didn't, what are the best performing ads, and making sure that matches up with, because we know sometimes Meta's reporting is a little funky and stuff.
Mhm.
Being able to make sense of the data you see, and then getting some of the recommendations for what to do differently. I can do a report in chat gpt and get analysis of all the top performing ads and the low performing ads, and then also put the ads in there, not just the metrics. And it can pinpoint, you need a stronger hook here, try this, try this. It's your thinking partner. We have a whole
Mhm.
marketing team, but we're also human. We have biases, we have blind spots, we have all of that stuff. We're influenced by outside information as well as our own experience and knowledge. This isn't. This just
Mhm.
gives you information based off the data. And I always say, feelings can lie to you. The data doesn't lie. You can paint different pictures based off the same data, but the data is the data. And so I think a team embracing it is super important, and always thinking, is this something that AI can help me with?
Mhm.
And if so, don't be afraid to use it. It might take time to, kind of sort through, how do I use it for this thing? But
The
just,
different models, the different prompts, but it's probably going to take most people a week, not more than that, to learn the basics of prompting. I don't know if a lot of people saw that, but Google actually released a full PDF teaching everyone how to prompt. It's
Mm,
a full PDF. I think it's 30 or 40-page long, explaining like the different technical verbiage that is used behind prompting, and just giving you some ideas. If you want to get an image, this is the type of prompt. If you want to do copy and creative, this is the type of image. Like it gives you everything for free. Like the information is available easier than ever. So it's not about. I think we come from an education information age, which the high ticket online space thrive based on that. It was like, oh, information is now available. We can charge a lot for information. That's how
yeah.
we're going to make money. That's how we're going to educate people. But now we're entering a different stage that the information is available. It can easily be created by AI. But where humans are still going to be critical is helping with the implementation feedback loops. It's going to be hard, at least now. Might change my mind in a year, but I think it's still hard to get a better feedback loop from an agent or AI as you could get from a human that is really experienced. But I see AI creating a bigger distance between juniors and seniors. So
Yeah.
the in betweens, like if you're average, you can try to become a senior and you'll have a job because you will be the one prompting, creating the GPTs, creating the AI, because you're going to have the knowledge base needed to train the AI to do what you want the AI to do. And then you're going to have the juniors who are going to be using the GPTs. There's going to be like entry level labor. So if you're average and you don't try to step up, you're going to have to step down.
Yeah.
Those are going to be the ones that are going to be out of business. And I think those are the ones that fell prey to the status quo, like, "Ah, I don't need to work too hard. I don't want to be a linchpin. I just want to do enough to get by." It worked for maybe 10, 20 years, but I don't think it's going to work long term. So some
Yeah.
really cool ideas, some really cool insights. And I think we could go on for hours just talking about AI. But another big part of what you do, it's like helping empowering teams on how teams can become high performing teams. And there are two things. It's like, how can you empower leaders and how can you create high levels of ownership? Do you want to expand a little bit on those two?
Yeah, the empowering leaders piece is really important because people want to know they're valued. They want to
Mhm.
be respected. They want to have the authority that's necessary for their role and have that respected. They're here building the dream of another company. And usually, like me, whenever I spent almost 11 years with a company, it aligned with my personal why. People say build your dream or somebody's going to pay you to build theirs. That was okay. My why was to be a mom with my kids, taking them to school, picking them up. That's okay. People will be okay being on your team and building your dream as long as it aligns with their own. But there's something that they need in return. And it doesn't always come in just the form of compensation. You can pay somebody really well, but if they're not treated well, they're not respected, they're not valued, they're not brought in on the brainstorming meetings that you're having that affect them and their role, no money is going to matter with that. So being in conversation, I see people for the people they are. I see the whole person. They might be a father, a mother, a wife, a husband, a best friend. There's all these things, and life happens. They have emergencies in their life they have to go deal with. Knowing that somebody cares enough about their personal life that it's okay for them to speak up and say, my daughter has this recital. I'd really love to go to it. That's totally fine. And me, I expect that they'll come with some thinking already having been done. This is what I've lined up in order for me to be out. I got ahead on this. I'll make sure you have these metrics beforehand. That's how I know if I'm a good leader or not. It's not just raise a problem, raise a gap, raise that you need time off, and then we're left to figure it out. Be in good leadership around how everything is still going to be possible, knowing somebody's going to be out or knowing somebody's going to have a full day of meetings and not be able to respond for a couple hours, whatever the situation may be. Seeing people as the humans that they are, the whole humans, the work life and the personal life, goes probably much further than compensation even could. you
I've
know I,
seen that multiple times working with companies. People are like, oh, what if we just pay them more? Like, that can help for a month or two or maybe three. But if salary is the only incentive you have, they're going to find another place that is willing to pay them more. And what about what's happened next. They're
Yeah.
not going to be fulfilled. You're not going to be happy as well because you just lost an employee that you spent countless hours paying them, training them, building them up, and they're just leaving because they don't understand there is more to them than just the salary.
Hmm. And they might even leave to go somewhere else and take a pay cut.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have, different opportunities in their personal life, maybe less stress at work, or it could even be more stress because they have more ownership, but they're willing to take that pay cut because it aligns better with what their personal goals are. And I think a lot of people forget that. They just want to throw money at the problem and think that that's the solution, and it's not always.
No, it's not. I want to do some rapid fire wisdom as well with you to get some really good gold nuggets. I have 4 questions for you. Let me start with the number one. One belief about leadership that changed throughout your experience of helping teams become more,
Yeah.
let's say, ownership based.
I think that I used to have the belief that the leadership came from the top down, and I believe it comes from the bottom up. Listening to people, what they need, me being in conversation, or whoever's at the top being in conversation around what's happening, because they're the ones closest to the clients. They're the ones closest to the systems and the processes and doing the work. You might have a really good idea up here and then think, this is what we're doing. I'm going to tell everybody. I'm going to lead down and direct everybody, but they have the context. They have different information than you have. And so that partnering with them, there's always going to be the title hierarchy and the position hierarchy, but there doesn't need to be in leadership that way. Of course, leadership when it comes to the company and the vision and the direction, but when it comes to the day-to-day, the leadership up is way more important. That's where you get the information from your clients, from the team members, and allowing them to bring ideas. Everybody is income producing in some way. Maybe not directly, it could be indirectly. Their perspective and the context that they have is so valuable. That was a big realization to me. Mhm.
I love it. I love it. And I mean, I would love more companies to think like that. Even myself in my corporate experience, there were plenty of times that wasn't felt. And that created a lot of issues. A lot of people leaving the company exactly because of that. They didn't feel recognized. They didn't feel like there was like a shared leadership approach. Let's talk a little bit about AI. What's one AI tool you think every business owner should explore if they haven't?
Right now I'm staying out of the bright, shiny object syndrome, although I've trained a really good Flux Laura model on the CEO that I work with. I can produce marketing images without a photo shoot, might cost $20 instead of $3,000. But my personal preference is ChatGPT. And the
Mhm.
more you use it, now I know some people like Gemini, and there's all these other ones that people use. And I say, use what you feel comfortable with and learn how to use it really, really well. When we were talking about the images and stuff earlier, when it comes to prompting, I might have a hard time in order to get the output that I want, but I could find a picture that looks very similar to what I'm trying to create. I'll upload it to ChatGPT and say, please describe the background, very descriptive. I give all this stuff, and then it'll create a description I need in order for me to create a prompt. So think outside the box with whatever platform that you use. I was just working on my daughter's car recently, and there was, I was kind of troubleshooting. I uploaded a picture of some corrosion that I found, the before and after picture, and it guided me on, yeah, you clean that off good. Yes, it would totally cause these symptoms. And then we moved on to the next thing. Absolutely think outside the box whenever you're using it, but whatever you're choosing to use it really well and look at why you would be using something. What's the problem you're trying to solve in your business, or what's the inefficiency that you're trying to solve? Because some people are like, yeah, I use Chat GPT. Well, look at your output and look at mine when I use it. And
Mhm.
it's not just a matter of I go in there and I say, write 4 emails, you know, doing what? It's only going to be your output's only going to be as good as your input is.
Mhm.
So choose what you want, for what you feel you want to use it for, but get really good at that.
I'm impressed. As an example for people that are listening, I'm impressed. I use ChatGPT every day. Like everything I'm doing now, I normally use ChatGPT, even if it's just to cross-reference an idea and just get some feedback. I have different prompts, different chats that I'm using for different purposes. But one that impressed me the most was actually a company we work with. They have built a custom Claude bot
Mm.
using the CMO's experience in all things related to marketing. The quality of the copy it creates, it's much better than most of the copywriters I've worked with over the past few years.
Yeah.
Of course, you need to give it the right context. You need to explain your offer. You need to explain your audience. If you're speaking to a solution aware, problem aware, unaware, you need to give it some context. But as soon as you do, and you can even feed it with links, you can look at your landing page, your ad copy, the amount of changes it can easily make to your landing page, to your emails, to the thank you pages, content you can post everywhere, like the quality, how human it sounds, is just mind blowing to me. And again, I feel like this is just scratching the surface. I've seen like more complex solutions that if you're not into AI as a listener, I wouldn't go into that right away because it can be like a little bit overwhelming. But it's something that I think it's not even an option for
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Another good question for you. You talked a lot about habits. What's one habit or ritual you have that keeps you grounded in moments of high stress?
I would say the gym.
Mhm.
You know, yesterday was a taxing day on me. It was, just busy work day. It was also tax day. And I text my husband. I said, I'm really looking forward to leg day at the gym today. It just, it gets the energy out. So it's not pent up and you're thinking about things and stressing over it, because stress is one of the number one causes of diseases and illnesses and that sort of stuff. So I really believe, for me personally, going to the gym has been one of the best habits that I've been able to put in place in my life. And I try to do it even when I'm traveling, whether it's vacation or, traveling for work. It's a thing that I notice my body feels differently if I haven't done it in a couple days.
I'm a true believer in habits. That's how I design my whole life. And I believe there are keystone habits. And all of us should have like 2 to 4 keystone habits that will unlock other habits. And for me, the gym is the same. People think, oh, like if I eat well, I will go to the gym. Most people that I know, it's the other way around. As an example, like if you go to the gym, you just want to eat well because I've been to the gym. Now I want to eat like really good nutritious food. And for me as well, even though I love eating well and eating healthy stuff, I know that going to the gym is one of my keystone habits. The second one would be sleep as well. If I
Yeah.
don't sleep well, I'm going to be in trouble. Productivity goes down. My appetite gets really weird. Sometimes super hungry or not hungry at all. Like so, I know those two as a minimum. I need to tackle them every single day. Good sleep, good workout, and I'm going to be off to the races.
Yeah, and for those of us that work from home, you can feel a little bit like a little hermit being at your house. I have a Jeep where I'm very into off-roading and going out camping where a lot of other vehicles can't even drive to and stuff. And my Jeep sits in the driveway. I
Mhm.
maybe drive it once a week. I don't put a lot of miles on it, but getting out of the house is important. Whether I work in the backyard in the sun or I'm getting out of the house to go to the gym, it's super important to me, or I start to feel stuck. I need that environment change. And I go to the gym, but I don't totally zone out. I'm a constant student of my craft, I guess you could say. I listen to podcasts. Sometimes I listen to AI trainings, anything I don't have to watch, but I
Mhm.
could listen to in my headphones when I'm at the gym. I feel like that's my focus time. Nothing is distracting me at home. That's my time where it's just my headphones and, I'm learning, listening, and, it makes me feel good, because if I'm at home trying to do those things, I have pets. My husband's here. One of my daughter, she's an adult. She still lives at home. And there's just other things that need my attention that I may feel bad not giving that attention to. But
Mhm.
I know if I'm going for a walk or I'm going on a hike or I'm going to the gym, I can just have that focus time. Sometimes it's just music, but sometimes, more often than not, it's some kind of training or podcast that I'm listening to.
Love it. If there was one book or one resource that you would recommend to every entrepreneur, what would that be? The one
So,
thing?
yeah, well, that was a good one, but you can, I would say, because I love the people part of leadership so much, one of my mentors early on was Annie Hyman Pratt, and she came out with a book called The People Part. And it's all about you being in good self leadership and supporting your team to be in good self leadership. And she has some different frameworks and models in there. And I did coaching with her and her team for 8 years now. 8 years. Yeah. And that that was even before the book came out, but that book has honestly changed my life, helped me on this journey of who I want to be at home, who I want to be at work, what I want people to say about me that meet me, how I show up, but also how I deal with the stressful situations, the conflict, the humanness of working with humans, different personalities. Everybody comes from that place of, I believe everybody comes from that place of positive intention, but they don't always communicate from that place. It doesn't feel like it. So building the skills to deal with that and then also train my team on that. That book is the number one book that I recommend every time somebody asks.
Love it. I will take a look. I haven't read that one, so I'm going to make sure I read that one. It's something I'm always interested in developing a little bit more. I mean, I could keep going on for hours and hours, but if someone wants to get one key takeaway, what would be one key takeaway? Something that people can remember after listening to this episode.
One key takeaway. I guess I would probably say it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be nervous about new things or things that are coming up, but do it anyways. I learned that early on, that the growth doesn't happen when you're comfortable. It happens when you're uncomfortable, but fear can keep you in being comfortable. Just learn how to do things from that place of, I'm still scared, but I'm doing it. Whether that's building a team, building a business, supporting other leaders, AI stuff, just do it anyways.
I love it. And where can people connect with you to find more about what you do, what you're working on, some of your AI developments?
I would say LinkedIn is probably the best place to connect with me. I post a lot of operational stuff on there. I really love connecting with COOs, a lot of second in commands, CEOs, and I post about some AI stuff on there as well. And I love connecting with new people, and I'm happy to connect outside of there, but that would be the first place where people could find me easily.
Love it.
Jenn on LinkedIn.
I will make sure that we can leave some of your links in the description of the podcast so people can easily find you. And I want to end the episode today with another quote from you. I think it's a great quote. The best leaders aren't the ones who have all the answers. They're the ones who ask the right questions, they adapt, and they build systems that allow them to focus on what truly matters. I think it's a great quote and a great way for people to think about how they can step into leadership a little bit more during this scaling phase of their business to make sure that they can keep taking care of the people that have been supporting them and will supporting them during this transition phase from a small startup to an actually big, scaling, impactful company. It was delightful to have you here with us. I wish to see you again for another episode, and I want to wish all of our listeners a fulfilled life, and I will see you all soon.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Ethical Scaling Podcast, The Masters of the Game. But before you go, remember to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode packed with juicy insights and a sprinkle of laughter. If you enjoyed today's show and want to spread the love, leave us a review and share this podcast with your fellow business mavens. Together, we can create a ripple effect of ethical growth and impact that reverberates throughout the digital cosmos. Until next time, keep scaling ethically, keep dreaming big, and never forget to find joy in the journey. This was Jay and Ben signing off with a wink and a smile. Catch you on the flip side.